Drop it in motion, motion. Feeling like I'm frozen, frozen. I just tryna keep it rolling, rolling. Got me feeling like I'm frozen, feeling like I'm frozen. Drop it in motion.
Hi everyone, this is Zed with another GTA 5 modding tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to install all dependencies, which include game config, heap adjuster, pack file limit adjuster, post-processing software such as NVE and Reshade, ScriptHookV, ScriptHookVDotNet. I'll also be showing you all of the realism mods that I use in my game, along with complete stability. These mods include Natural Vision Evolved, QuantV 2.1.4, not 3.0. I can go into detail in that later. My Visualsetting.dat. VisualV will be taking the TimeCycleMods and dynamic shadows from it. I'll explain later. SkyNet, which is a new modification that's on GTA 5 mods, which include Parallax textures. We will be isolating the Parallax wood textures for Santa Monica Pier. REVO 2.0 will be isolating the roads from 2.0. The reason why I don't use REVO completely is because it's unstable when merging other modifications. I will show how to install the complete modifications on top of it as well for those of you that want to use complete REVO. However, I cannot assure you game stability. We'll be using Real California architecture, enhanced street lights to provide volumetric street lighting, like the cone shape that you see from street lamps. Another modification called Volumetric Lighting FX, which increases the backfire light from the exhaust, as well as creates particle effects around the car and also moths around the street lamps that fly around the street lamps. I'll be showing you how to install raindrops on cars in 4K textures, which also show when the rain is raining automatically. So as it rains, the textures are shown on the car to make it realistic. Police modifications such as installing a Bearcat to your game and also adding it to the dispatch mechanism. Project Enhancement V, Dispatch Tactics and Ambience Remastered. Essentially this overhauls the complete police modification, so you'll have SWAT teams tactically looking for people, taking cover, walking around together. I'll be showing videos showing you what that involves. SWAT uniform overhaul, so the SWAT will have the realistic clothing and body armor along with the equipment such as the pistol, etc., all on the hip, just like real life. Realistic gun sounds, manual transmission, which is really nice for a first person perspective. So when you get in the car, your head camera is actually your head opposed to just being by the dashboard, so you have complete control of the way of you're looking. You can look down in the chassis of the car. Also you can change it from automatic gears to manual, so you can shift through the gears if you're using a controller or keyboard, or better yet, if you've got a steering wheel and pedal setup, you can also involve that as well. And finally, Word of Variety. Word of Variety brings life to Grand Theft Auto 5, Los Santos and Blaine County. You'll see things such as custom scenarios, which involve police cars pulling people over, writing tickets, the media, the press giving interviews, random cars being stolen, cars that you normally wouldn't see on the road driving around, so DLC cars from multiplayer. People will bring out umbrellas when it starts raining automatically for a more immersed game, and overall it just changes the game overall. I will be showing you my ENB and Reshade at the end of this video for comparison purposes. This is not something that's required. Of course, I will be showing you how to install the ENB and Reshade for using Natural Vision Evolved or Quant, etc. But if you do want to use my ENB and Reshade, I've been working on it for about 9 months and I've achieved the best color grading for realism. I'll be showing you what it looks like at the end. So to begin, let's go into the dependencies. All links for modifications used in this video will be given in the description, including Patreon links for any paid modifications. To begin, you need to install OpenIV. The link will be given in the description. Once it's installed, locate where your GTA 5 folder is located. Once it's open, click on the edit mode at the top right. This will allow editing in the GTA 5 folder. When you've clicked on edit mode, a prompt will open asking you to install the OpenIV ASI and the ASI loader, otherwise the game will not load modified RPF files into the game. As you can see, this video is for not modding GTA Online, otherwise you will be banned. And furthermore, this tutorial is for single player. It may work for 5M, I'm not completely sure, however follow at your own risk. To begin, click on the ASI Manager prompt. If this prompt is not showing, you can also see up the top there's a tick with a window. Click on it and you'll have the window here. Make sure the top two are installed. As you can see, it's going to load modified RPFs, and it will also create a mods folder, which is where all of the modifications are kept, so that when GTA 5 boots, it will load these modified RPFs. You'll have custom vehicles, textures, palm trees, etc. Just click on yes and close this window. As you can see, a mods folder has been created, but it's empty at the moment as we have no modified textures in the game. So to begin, we'll be installing Natural Vision Evolved. If you do not have NVE, then you can skip this step and follow the rest of the tutorial. However, I will recommend Natural Vision Evolved as it's the most realistic looking modification out there. At the time of this video, I am using the September build, and the October build will be coming out. It's either out now or coming out today, I'm not sure. However, the installation process should be the same. So open up the NVE installer using WinRAR, WinZip or 7-zip, whichever is your preferred, and double click the Natural Vision Installer.oiv and let it open OpenIV and install it. Or alternatively, the easier way I've found installing it is drag the Natural Vision installer into the OpenIV window, let it extract, and then a installer prompt will open. And I will show you the final way of installing it if that's the way you want to do it, which is not my way of doing it. My way of doing it is by extracting and then installing that way, as I've found that's the most convenient. As you can see, a package installer window's opened, and then you would just click install. But the final way of installing it, if this is what you prefer, is by extracting the Natural Vision Installer.oiv. Once it's extracted, click on this icon next to the ASI window manager that we clicked on earlier. It's this one here with the blue, red and green blocks. And then locate the file this way. Graphics mods, YouTube tutorials, installing mods, realism mods, NVE. So that's the alternative way of doing it. It doesn't matter which way you do it as long as it's installed. Click on install and let the installer run and finish. I will skip through. I'll fast forward the video for your convenience. Now that the installation is complete, close off this window and reopen the NVE installer package again if you've accidentally closed it. Click on optional add-ons, and I would recommend darker nights, as the nights are much darker and it looks more realistic. We're not going to be running the OIV, as I've had experiences before with OIVs that cause issues, so instead extract the darker nights installer anywhere on your desktop or your documents. The easiest way for me is just drag and drop. Minimize that, change the OIV extension to .zip again, open it up, click on content, mod. Here are all the time cycles that's normally installed. In this case we'll be using the clear and extra sunny, We will not be using any other time cycle inside of this installer. This is because we'll be using time cycles from Quant, which I will show you later on installation. So select the clear and extra sunny and then go to mods, update RPF, common, data, time cycle. If you're not sure what I've just said, it's up here. Mods, update RPF, common, data, time cycle. Make sure you're in your mods. It shouldn't say GTAV, update RPF, common, data, time cycle, as you are modifying the game files opposed to the mod files. Drag the weather_clear and the weather_extra sunny and overwrite it. You now have darker nights in your clear and extra sunny weather. And these weather settings can be set in-game by using a trainer such as Simple Trainer, Quant Trainer, or a Native Trainer, whichever is your preferred. And now we'll be installing the ENB. So go into ENB required. Ultra preset settings is for screenshots, not recommended for gameplay, it would just eat your FPS. Medium settings preset is what Raised recommends from NVE for standard gameplay. And low settings preset is if your rig is not up to par, so install accordingly for what you need. In my case, I'll be installing the medium settings preset. Drag and drop these files into your GTAV root folder and replace where necessary. Now, I will be showing a demonstration between my ENB and NVE's ENB. My ENB has been tweaked for color grading, tone mapping, exposure, sharpness, as well as brightness. The reason I have my own ENB is because I've tweaked the color grading for about 8 to 9 months to achieve a really realistic looking game, and I will give a demonstration on how to install it shortly and what it looks like. Now if we go back, you won't be needing to install the main files required, as we are going to be merging modifications and these files are not required for what we're doing. So we can just close off the NVE installer and that's complete. We can move on to the next step. The next step will be QuantV. We will not be using QuantV 3.0 as I've previously had one of my videos taken down by Quant. I won't be going into detail. So instead I'll be using QuantV 2.1.4, which is free and open to the public. However, I do recommend QuantV 2.1.4 as I feel the overcast, rainy weather, thunder weather is much more realistic opposed to QuantV 3.0. As well as we'll be using the ENB either from my ENB or NVE's ENB, whichever you decide to use, which will have higher FPS. Of course, QuantV 3.0 has really nice shaders, I'm not saying that at all. You'll have rain on screen effects, ice effects on screen if you decide to use QuantV 3.0. However, for the purpose of this video, we'll be using QuantV 2.1.4 without those effects, but better color grading and more realism, as well as higher FPS. So open up QuantV 2.1.4. Links will be given in the description. And click on Manual Install, Main GTAV root folder, and drag and drop the QuantV ASI and the INI into your GTAV root folder. Go back, click on Update, Update RPF, Common, Data, Time Cycle. Again, do the same in OpenIV. Mods, Update, Update RPF, Common, Data, Time Cycle. The only weathers we'll be using from Quant, as I mentioned earlier, is overcast, clouds, rain and thunder. Overcast, clouds, rain and thunder. As you may remember before, we've taken the clear and extra sunny time cycles from NVE, so there's no need to replace those as well as any other weathers here that's listed I don't recommend for a realistic game. Drag and drop these files and replace into your time cycle folder. As for Quant, that's everything installed. You can now close off Quant and we'll move on to the next step. We'll now be using my Visualsetting.dat, which is a tweaked version of Natural Vision Remastered, which NVR is available to the public anyway, hence why I've used this Visualsetting.dat as a base. The Visualsetting.dat is located in Grand Theft Auto 5, Mods, Update RPF, Common, Data. As you can see, the Visualsetting.dat is located here. Drag and drop and replace. We can now move on to the next step. We'll be using VisualV for various TimeCycleMods, as I've found these are the most realistic, as well as we'll be taking the dynamic shadows ASI from VisualV. If you're not sure what that is, essentially VisualV has created a modification script so that when you drive your car and you have your headlights on at night, just like real life, you would expect a shadow to cast if a pedestrian or an object or a car is standing in front of it. So the shadow is created. So we'll be taking that from VisualV. The link will be given in the description. Open up VisualV. And as I've said, as we're installing TimeCycleMods from VisualV and not the whole installer, we won't be running the OIV installer. So click on installation via mod package. Again, same process as NVE, drag and drop the VisualV.oiv anywhere on your desktop or your documents, and change the file extension from .oiv to .zip, and open it up with WinRAR 7-zip, etc. And click on content, update RPF, common, data, time cycle. And from VisualV, we'll be using TimeCycleMods 1 to 4, so just highlight them. And again, the TimeCycleMods in OpenIV is mods, update RPF, common, data, TimeCycle. And we'll be replacing these 4 files, so just go ahead and drag and drop and replace. That is everything we need from VisualV installer. However, we're not done. We'll be installing the dynamic shadows modification I've just explained. So close off this window. You can delete the VisualV zip that we just extracted. Make sure it's not the complete zip, otherwise you'll need to install it again. Open it back up and click on optionals, and here's the dynamic shadows from the pedestrian vehicles. As you can see, it's an ASI. ASI files belong in the GTA View root folder, so just drag and drop them into your root folder. And that's everything we'll be taking from VisualV. We can now move on to the next step. The next step is SkyNet. SkyNet is a modification that's on GTA 5 mods. It's in beta. There's also a Patreon for it. I'll leave both links in the description. It's quite a decent modification, I'm not going to lie. It's had a go at improving the parallax road textures for the most of the game, as well as lighting, and also parallax textures down on the Pier area. However, we'll only be using the parallax Pier textures, as I found that the road textures, although they are good, I'm not saying that at all, I think they need a bit more work. So I'll show you how to isolate the parallax Pier textures. I'll show you as well on what the parallax Pier textures look like at the end of this installation. So go ahead and open up the SkyNet 1.1 beta. I'll leave a link in the description. And click on SkyNet. And as you can see, it's a dlc.rpf. So DLCs belong in mods, update, x64, DLC packs. This is all where add-ons live, such as graphics modifications for textures such as trees, buildings, roads, as well as vehicles, add-on vehicles such as police cars, etc. that you want to add to your game. Drag and drop SkyNet into your DLC packs, let it extract. We will be making modifications to it, so minimize off that. Open up the SkyNet you just extracted, go into your dlc.rpf, open up x64, models, CD images. As you can see, they've had a go at the roads for parallax, so we can just take a quick look. So these are parallax roads. However, as it's in beta, we won't be using them, as I don't think they're quite ready personally. So go ahead and delete all of the roads.rpf up from roads to 12. Just highlight it all and delete. We won't be needing the vehicles.rpf as I'm not sure what its function is, however we don't need it. As well as the lights. Well, the lights we'll be using from Natural Vision Evolved anyway, so this will just conflict if we leave it present. So go ahead and delete it. You should now only have the Pier.rpf, and as you can see, the Pier down on Santa Monica has been worked on to provide parallax textures. However, it will not look as good in OpenIV, but you can get a good understanding of what it looks like just by viewing it here. I will show you the results in game as well, of course. So you should only have Pier.rpf. So go back 2 folders. So go back to x64 textures. We can also delete the textures.rpf as it's empty and it serves no function, so just go ahead and delete that. Now go back to your dlc.rpf, which is a folder back. You'll have common x64 content setup XML. Double click into the content.xml, right click and edit the content.xml. Scroll to the very bottom, and as you can see, these are the files that are enabled when OpenIV is loading the game with the modified RPFs. So in order to prevent the game from crashing, because it will crash as we've deleted those RPF files, we need to tell OpenIV not to load them. Otherwise it will try and load something that doesn't exist and will crash. So we're literally just highlighting everything. So from, I'll show you again. The roads 12.rpf up to the DLC text.meta. So delete everything other than the roads, the Pier.rpf. So you should have files to enable and it should just say Pier.rpf. Go ahead and save it. We have now finished installing everything from SkyNet, and we can go ahead and move on to the next step. We'll now be installing REVO 2.0. A disclaimer: as I've already mentioned, we will not be installing REVO 2.0 completely. This is because if you consider every other modification that I'm explaining to install in this video, REVO 2.0 itself is a really heavy modification and can cause crashes, texture loss. I've also made changes to my own game, multiple changes to the game config, pack file limit, heap adjuster. I've also made multiple compromises, and no matter what I do, because of how big REVO is, installing all of these other really nice realistic modifications, compromises must be made. So in my circumstance, I've isolated the REVO 2.0 roads from the installation and only taken them. Everything else is left out. You'll find that your game will be more stable. You'll experience less game crashes. However, if you wish to install it, please refer to my previous video. I'll leave a link in the description and a timeline of how you can install the complete installation. It's not just a case of running the OIV installer and that's it, because you'll overwrite everything that we've previously done. So I'll leave a link in the description along with a timeline. So to begin installing just the roads from REVO, go into REVO. At the time of this video, I'm using the August build. I do not have September or October's because I ended my subscription. However, the installation should be the same. Okay. Click on Installation Files. Click on REVO 2.0. We'll only be needing part 1, as this contains the roads we need. Part 2, 3, 4, 5 are all to do with the buildings, billboards, walkways, etc. So go ahead and extract it. I'll speed up the video for your convenience. Okay, now that is extracted, change the file name extension from .oiv to .zip. and open it up. Click on content, LA Revo. So you'll have LA Revo 2.1.4, and that belongs in the DLC packs as it's a dlc.rpf. So Quant V 2.5 mods update x64 DLC packs, and drag and drop. Now that it's extracted, go inside of it, go inside the dlc.rpf, x64, city.rpf. Now up the top right, you'll see that if you type in global, this is where the roads are, so we'll be taking LA Revo roads from it. And also there is freeway. Now to isolate these roads easily, the best way I've found of doing it is just search for freeway, highlight, drag and drop it into your folder that you've extracted the zip file into, so here, and do the same for the roads. So just type global, this is all to do with the roads, drag and drop. You can replace anyway, it's because freeways use a similar name, and highlight everything and delete. Now that it's extracted, you should have nothing in your city.rpf. So go back to the global roads and the freeway roads we extracted, wherever you extracted it, highlight them all, and drag and drop it back in. So you should now only have these files inside of city.rpf. Go ahead and delete the backup that we made, and go back from city.rpf to x64. Highlight Hollywood.rpf, Beverly.rpf and Airport.rpf and delete them as they're not required. They're also buildings that's contained inside of this dlc.rpf. Go back to dlc.rpf, right click content.xml, edit, and scroll down to files to enable, and delete the Beverly, Airport and the Hollywood.rpf as we've just deleted them. So the only one you should have here is the city.rpf, and save it. We've now isolated the roads from LA Revo, and you'll have more in-game stability. There is one more thing we need to do. Go back to your DLC packs and go into NVE, dlc.rpf, x64. Now as we've chosen to have LA roads, we need to delete the roads.rpf as they will conflict and overlap in the Grove Street area if you have NVE Platinum, Hollywood area if you have NVE Platinum, Legion Square if you have NVE Gold. So they'll just overlap and conflict with each other. I've made a separate video on this showing the conflict and how to fix it, but I'll show you how to do it now as well. So highlight the roads.rpf and delete it. Everything else in here you can keep, it's not a problem. Go back, go into content.xml, right click, edit, and you can scroll down to files enable, roads.rpf, and delete and save. You've now deleted the roads from NVE from the game, so it will not overlap with LA Revo. We've now finished installing all the contents we need from LA Revo and can move on to the next step. The next step is Real California Architecture. This adds real life names into the game to signs as well as Hollywood, signs on the freeway, shop names, store names I should say if you're American, and things like that. So it'll add a more realistic game. I'll leave a link in the description. Open up, at the time of this video I'm using 0.48, however the installation process should be the same if you're watching it in a couple of months time. Open it up, it just contains RTA, pretty straightforward. Go back to DLC packs, so mods update x64 DLC packs, and drag and drop RCA into the DLC packs folder. Now that it's extracted, that's everything we need from RCA. Go back to realism mods. So the next modification we'll be installing is enhanced streetlights. Now I'll quickly show you what it looks like. Raised has done it himself, but I feel that this is much better. So from these photographs, it's not illustrated very well and it will not look like this in game, I can assure you. The ones that we'll be using is these lights here, the volumetric white lights. There is other options such as blue and white high intensity lights. However, volumetric white lights look most realistic in my opinion. So we'll be installing this. I'll leave a link in the description. Open up the Enhanced Streetlights V2 and go into Enhanced Streetlights V2, Colors, Free, Colors, White. We'll be installing the high quality volumetric. As you can see, it's an OIV. Now, because we're merging modifications, I wouldn't take the risk of installing an OIV. So instead, drag and drop the white.oiv into your documents or anywhere on your desktop. Change the file name extension to .zip. Go into white.zip. Go into content. Now, these are random names which is difficult to make sense of, but essentially I'll direct you to where they need to be replaced. Drag and drop v_trafficlights.rpf and extract it anywhere on your desktop or your documents. Once it's extracted, if you can't see v_trafficlights.rpf in this format with the OpenIV symbol, double click it and you'll be greeted with a prompt like this. How do you want to open RPF files from now on? Click on more apps and locate OpenIV in the list. If you can't find OpenIV in the list anywhere at all, press the Windows key, type in OpenIV, right click, open file location, right click this, open file location, copy this path, so left click up here, Control C, close this window. Again, click on here, this prompt will come up. More apps, scroll down, look for another app on this PC, and then paste the text that we copied into here, Control V, and select OpenIV. Should now open up in an OpenIV format, just like normal. Once it's opened, we need to extract all of these lights from v_trafficlights.rpf anywhere on your desktop or your documents. Essentially what we're doing is replacing these lights with the NVE ones. As NVE already has lights contained within its DLC or RPF, we need to replace them with enhanced lights, otherwise you will not have volumetric lighting. So drag and drop these lights anywhere on your desktop or your documents. Once it's extracted, close off this window and open up the NVE folder. Within Mods, Update, x64 DLC Packs, dlc.rpf, x64, lights.rpf, and drag and drop all the files that we extracted into your NVE dlc.rpf. This will replace all the streetlights that's contained within NVE, as Raised has already modified some of them. However, we will not be using them, we'll be using enhanced streetlights instead. Once that's done, you can go ahead and delete the backups that we've extracted. You can also delete the v_trafficlights.rpf. You now need to replace the VFX fault volume info.ymt, and that is located in x64a.rpf. So if you don't have an x64a.rpf, scroll down on the left hand side all the way to the bottom. There's x64a.rpf. It may say copy to mods folder. If it does, click it. However, if it says show in mods, click that anyway. And then it's data, effects, VFX volume, it's right there. Drag and drop and replace. We now need to replace the LODlights.rpf, and that's located in update. So mods, update RPF, x64, levels, GTA 5, and the LODlights.rpf is located here. You're now done installing enhanced streetlights, and you'll have volumetric white streetlights inside your game. We can now move on to the next step. The next one is Volumetric Lighting FX, which sounds similar to enhanced streetlight. However, it is different. I will show you a quick illustration on how it looks like. The author of this video, this author of this modification is someone called Venki. I will leave a link to the free version and the paid version. The paid version is on Patreon and it has got updates. For example, this is volumetric dust lighting, which has like dust flying around the car. This can look great in screenshots. Of course, it's not, in terms of realism, it's not realistic, but it's more eye candy. So if you decide you want it, that is in the Patreon version of the modification. But if you decide you want the free version, you'll have moths like this flying around these street lamps. So this is in the free version, which I'm about to show you how to install now. So if we close off that and go into Volumetric Lighting FX, I'll leave a link in the description. Go into the folder, click on main, drag and drop the OIV file anywhere on your desktop or in your documents. Change the extension from .oiv to .zip. Open that up. Content. Now, in terms of which ones we install, we'll be installing just the PTFX files. So you've got PTFX.rpf, PTFX low, and PTFX high. Now, this is a disclaimer. If you want this modification, please be aware that you cannot merge it with the natural vision evolved smoke from the tires. They both have the same name, so if you wheel spin and you find that your smoke doesn't have that big white smoke on the back, it's because you've decided to choose to install volumetric FX lighting. So the differences between each other is NVE has a great larger white smoke when wheel spinning or drifting or whatever, and volumetric FX lighting will have moths flying around street lamps, as well as something I forgot to mention, which is the backfire on the exhaust. It's much brighter at night, which in my opinion is definitely something I would choose over a natural vision evolved white tire smoke, but it's entirely up to you. So if you want white tire smoke, don't follow this process that I'm about to go through now, but if you do want this modification, then follow me. So to begin, we need the PTFX, the PTFX high, and the PTFX low. That is located in mods, update RPF, x64, patch, data, effects, and go ahead and replace accordingly. So PTFX, there's that one, PTFX low, and PTFX high. We're now done installing this modification. Do not install the V Traffic Lights YT/YP, as that will overwrite the enhanced street lights modification we previously installed and you'll cause conflict. The next modification we're going to make is raindrops on the car, as well as, so there's two modifications that make this up. There's rain effects and then there's raindrops. The rain effects, I'll just quickly show you what it looks like. The rain effects is an enhancement script which is based on ScriptHookVDotNet. So if you're not sure what ScriptHookVDotNet is, I'll show you how to install it all shortly anyway in terms of the dependencies. Rain effects applies a dirt map to the car when it starts raining. So by default, the rain texture is mud. if that makes sense. So by default, when your car gets dirty, it gets muddy, but with this modification it turns the mud into rain, and it also applies rain to the cars when it starts raining. When it's sunny, it naturally dries out, so it reduces the texture, so it makes it invisible. So when you're playing, it looks like it's dried up, the rain is naturally dried up and evaporated. So we'll be installing this, but also we'll be installing the 8K rain texture. So there's 4K and 8K. We'll be installing the 4K texture, as the 8K, as the author states, it's for screenshots. Here we go. Performance will probably take a hit using this mod, especially with the 8K version, as it's mainly used for screenshots rather than actual gameplay. So we'll be using these textures, but this script. So to begin, I'll leave links in the description, of course. Open up Rain FX v 1.5. We're going to install it manually, and drag and drop the scripts folder into your GTAV root folder. So your GTAV root folder, and drag and drop. I'll be showing you how to install ScriptHookVDotNet, game config, pack file limit, and Heap Adjuster shortly. Let's just get the mods installed for now. So you should now have raindrops, textures, etc. here. Now this modification makes use of a raindrop on screen texture. I'm not a fan of it. I'll show you how to turn it off once we're in game. I can't do it right now, as the INI, the configuration file, does not get created until the game has been loaded. So we've done everything we need to install here. Under normal circumstances, we would replace the vshare.ytd, but we're going to be using the 4K textures from the other modification I've just shown you, whereas this one has lower quality raindrops. So let's close off that one. Go into raindrops 1.1. I'll leave a link in the description. As you can see, there's a 4K version and 8K. 8K can be used for Rockstar Editor and screenshots, so if you're good in if you like your cinematics, go for that. But use 4K for standard gameplay. Now there's various things we need to do to set this up. So you need to go to, scroll down on the left hand side and locate the update folder. So this is not mods update, this is update through the regular game file. Update RPF x64, sorry, update x64 DLC packs, and go into patch.day9ng dlc.rpf and copy it to the mods folder. Now that you've copied it to the mods folder, we need to copy the vshare.ytd from the game file into patch.day9ng. I'll show you how to do it. So GTA 5 mods x64e.rpf levels GTA 5 vehicles.rpf, and type in the filter top right vshare, and copy the vshare.ytd anywhere on your desktop or your documents. And now we need to go back to the patch.day9ng. So if you remember, it's GTA 5 mods, clear the filter, update x64 DLC packs, patch.day9ng dlc.rpf x64 levels GTA 5 vehicles.rpf. If you lost me, just slow the video down or scroll through slightly, or alternatively it's here, just pause it here and you can get to it. Now drag and drop the vshare.ytd we extracted into here, the patch.day9ng. Delete the backup we made, we don't need it. And here I'll just show you, this is the 8K raindrops that the game uses. So this is basically mapping. This is how it's mapped out on the vehicle. As you can see, they're really high quality raindrops. It looks weird viewing it in this format, but you'll see it in game at the end of the video. And in my case, 4K version. And open up the vshare.ytd. This is where all your number plates are stored, etc. So if you want custom plates, you can make changes here. And search for As you can see, there's generic mud. It's probably easier if we search for mud. So this here, for example, is what the mud looks like in game. So obviously as the car gets dirty, it gets muddy. So we'll be replacing that. When the car gets dirty, it will be raindrops on the car, because the script will be applying dirt, and the dirt will be rain, and that will only be applied in the rain. So that's how it works. To turn off the on-screen rain from rain effects, essentially you need to go into your scripts folder in your GTA V root folder, go into raindrops, and there'll be a file called raindrops.ini. Go into that. Where it says screenEffectEnabled, it would normally state true, just change it to false. I've seen it before where this entire text document is blank. It's an issue with the modification. So to address this issue, I will leave all of these lines in the description so you can copy it and then add it to the raindrops.ini file. I will also upload the file and give a link to the download to the file so you can drag and drop the raindrops.ini into your scripts raindrops folder if it is missing, just in case. For those of you experiencing rain in overcast, clearing, or foggy, it's because there's a conflict between Quant and NVE. So for example, it could be not raining, but there's puddles forming. You can hear the rain sound and the wind, and also splashes in the puddles, but it's not actually raining. To fix that, go into mods, update RPF, common, data, levels, GTA 5, Weather.xml, right click, edit, Control F, put this symbol, type in name, and then type overcast. And as you can see, it's got rain value 0.22. It's these 2.2s that are creating puddle splashes when it's not actually raining. It shouldn't be raining in overcast, that's for sure. So change it to 0.0, and also check foggy. Foggy should have no rain, so change that to 0.0 in the rain value, as well as I think clearing has the same issue. Yeah, clearing, rain value, change it to 0. And I think extra sunny is the same as well. Yep. And last but not least, clear. You want to be careful when searching for clear, because it will also show up for clearing. I've made that mistake before. There we go, clear, and the rain value is 0.22. Just change it to 0.00 and save. You'll now have no rain puddles showing when the weather is not raining. We can move on to the next step. We now need to install Word of Variety. I would certainly recommend Word of Variety. It adds a lot of realism to the game, as the vanilla game is quite bland when it comes to variety. So you'll see things like DLC vehicles in traffic, spawn points, different vehicle colors, different liveries. You'll see police bicycles driving around, patrol cars out on patrol, canine patrols, people getting pulled over, having tickets written, nude beaches, new scenarios, new animations. The full feature goes on. I would highly recommend Word of Variety. It brings the game to life. Although we cannot install it through the OIV installer, we do need to make some changes in order for it to not crash the game. So open Word of Variety and drag and drop WOV.OIV anywhere on your desktop or your documents, and rename the OIV to .zip. Close that off, we don't need it. Open up the WOV.zip with WinRAR. Highlight everything, drag and drop it to your documents or desktop. Close that off. You should have content, assembly, and icon. Open up the assembly. Press Ctrl F and search for game config. And delete that line. It's on line 51, game config, where it says add source. And also delete the XML path, WOV expansion, and WOV, as we'll be adding these lines to the DLC list manually ourselves. The reason why we're doing that is because when OpenIV imports lines to the DLC list.xml automatically, sometimes it corrupts it. So save it and close it. And delete the WOV.zip that we previously made. highlight the icon PNG assembly.xml content, right click, add to archive, type in wv.zip, let it compress, and then change it to .oiv. And it's now an OIV file. We can delete the changes that we made there and drag the wov.oiv into OpenIV this way, or alternatively you can search for it by clicking on this button here and finding it manually, but it's just easier to do it this way, and then let it install. I'll speed up the video for your convenience. Now that's installed, close that off, and we'll move on to installing the next mod. In my game, I've made various changes to the Swat riot van, which I'll just show you here. So the Swat van is changed to the Bearcat. So we'll be making it look like this in game. I think that looks really cool. And I'll show you how to do that. There's various things we need to do. We need to add the Bearcat to the DLC packs, and we also need to change values in the dispatch system to make it spawn. But I'll show you how to do that, don't worry. Okay, so mods, update, x64 DLC packs. So have this ready. Open up the Bearcat installation. I'll give you the file in the description, the link. And as you can see, it's a DLC RPF, so just drag and drop the Bearcat into your DLC packs, and that's it, we're done. The next modification is Project Enhancement V, Dispatch Tactics and Ambience Remastered. Now this modification is on GTA5mods.com, however it's outdated. It's maintained in a Discord server which is still being actively maintained now. The purpose of this modification is to change the way the police pit maneuvers work, etc. So I'll show you a quick video actually. So as you can see, they got out of the SWAT van, and like real SWAT would be doing, one's got their back to the other and they're looking out for each other. They also have a pit maneuver system, which I'll show you quickly. So as you can see, he's being boxed in. They will also pit normally, you know, when they hit the back of the car. And as you can see, that police car is keeping in front of the suspect's vehicle to keep him slowed down. So it's a great modification to add if you want to improve your wanted system. If you don't, just skip past it. I'll leave a link to the Discord link in the description so you can join the server and to have it downloaded. If you're not sure, just ask anyone in there how to install it, and I'm sure they'll help. There's also a readme file anyway, but I'll show you how to install it. That's the readme. Okay, so I haven't used any optional files. There is a enhanced on foot search, but it's experimental, so I'm one that will rather play stable builds rather than beta, because it could possibly cause a crash, and with the amount of modifications that we're installing, it's not worth taking the risk, but that's down to you. So click on installation and essentially just follow what it states. So part 1 required, so the Grand Theft Auto 5 root folder. The combat tweaks.asi, from what I've gathered, is what stops the police from shooting you on a 1-star or a 2-star. The way it works now in this dispatch system is if you break the law, a police car will turn up and he will hold his gun at you, expecting you to give up. And if you bring your gun out and aim it at the police car or the driver or whatever, then they'll start shooting back at you. Also, the wanted system is much better. So go to your Grand Theft Auto 5 root folder and drag and drop the combat tweaks and the ASI and the INI into your GTA V root folder. You won't have a replace, it's just because I already had it there. Go back, update RPF, common data. So common data. So mods, update RPF, common data. Now you can go ahead and replace everything here, that's completely fine. And if we go back off that, so it will be update RPF x64, so it'll be x64. Data and levels is here, just highlight data and levels and drag and drop. Part 2 required, open that one up. Now this affects the wanted system, so anyone that's played Grand Theft Auto 4, you'll understand that you'll have a circle around your player when you're wanted, and the more police you kill, the higher the wanted system is, the bigger the radius circle around your minimap gets, making it more difficult to escape the police. Furthermore, the police will only expand the wanted radius if they see you. So if you're hiding and the police are looking for you and you manage to, escape or whatever, then the wanted radius will only expand if you're seen. So that's how it works. If you don't want it, then just use that, but I'm going to use it. So with wanted radius, update RPF, common data. So update RPF, common data. So that's mods, update RPF, common data. And then there's the Dispatch.meta here. We'll go ahead and replace. That would change from compressed encrypted to compressed. There we go. And then we're going to do the same for x64. So it's mods, update RPF, x64. x64 data, and there's tune, and it's wanted tuning, which is there, compressed. There we go, done. So that is everything installed from Project Enhancement. Of course, it's completely optional, so if you don't want it, then skip past this part. However, I would highly recommend it. The optional files, that's down to you. If you decide you want it, then go for it, but I'm going to leave it out. Now we can move on to the next step. Now the Swat uniform overhaul is another optional. If you decide you want it, then go for it, follow me. If you don't, then fine, skip to the next step. The Swat uniform overhaul changes the way the police looks, the SWAT team. I mean, personally, I think that looks awesome. Look at that. So to get this installed, just follow me. Link in the description as always. Open up this folder. So you've got the option for Los Santos Police Department or LAPD. If you want realism, go LAPD. If you want the game lore, then go for LSPD. So these files are contained in mods, x64e.rpf, models, CD images, component peds SMY.rpf, component peds SMY.rpf. There we go. Just to make sure that we're in the right one, it's always best to check, copy the name, paste it in the filter, and there's the original. So go ahead and replace all these files inside of here into there. We're done with that folder. The ped props, so that'll be like body armor and things like that. That is located in, I think it's the same folder. Yeah, it's in the same folder. My apologies. So component peds SMY.rpf. Just double check. Search for this. Wait. Yeah, these files are contained in x64e.rpf, .rpf, models, CD images, ped props. So come out, there's ped props, just double check. Yep, they are present. Just check the other one just in case. Yep, it's all here, and go ahead and replace. We're now done installing these models, and we can go ahead and move on to the next stage. As I mentioned earlier, there is one more final modification we need to make in order to allow the Bearcat to spawn in the wanted system. You need to make changes to the Dispatch.meta. So mods, update RPF, common data, Dispatch.meta. As you can see, make sure you go in edit mode, right click edit, Control F, find what. We need to find the riot van. As you can see, it's using the riot van at the minute. The Bearcat file name is BCA, so change riot to BCA, and the same with the one below. Control F riot, do a search. There should be no riot references. There's not. Save. The riot van will now spawn in traffic and dispatch, and it will look like this, which looks awesome. We can now move on to the next modification. The next modification is realistic gun sounds. So this will just do a complete overhaul. I'll show you what it looks like. Well, I'll show you what it sounds like, I should say. Okay, so that sounds awesome. So again, completely optional, you don't have to install it, but the purpose of my video is realism. So skip this step if you don't want it, but if you do, then follow me. Okay, to install this, just drag and drop the RGS41.oiv into your documents or on your desktop, wherever you need. Of course, there'll be a link in the description as always. Change the OIV to .zip. Open up with WinRAR 7-zip, etc. You know the drill. We now need to make changes to the OIV installer. We're not going to be installing every single mod in here manually like we've previously been doing, because there's so much stuff in here. It would just take forever. But we do need to modify the OIV installer because it makes use of the core.ypt, which NVE uses for the wheel smoke as well as volumetric particle FX. So if you run the OIV installer without making these changes, your wheel smoke as well as the moths that fly upon the lights will not work. So these changes are required. So drag and drop and extract and close that off, and then just copy the name of this. So if you remember, this is what contains what we just extracted. So copy the name and then just delete it because we don't need it. We just needed the name. Go into the assembly.xml using Notepad or Notepad++. Scroll to the very bottom of this file and you'll see core YPT. There's 3 of them. This is what's telling OpenIV to install to a DLC pack. Highlight from here, this archive all the way up to here. So it should end below weapons AWC and then where it says content. Delete, and then just backspace that off and clear it up. Okay, perfect. Now highlight these 3: icon, assembly, and content. Right click, add to archive, and name it to RGS41.zip, realistic gun sounds 41.zip. Compress it, and here it is. We need to change it from .zip back to OIV because we'll be installing the OIV installer, and drag this into OpenIV, or alternatively click on this icon and locate it manually. In my case, I'll be doing it like this because it's much more convenient. And now we can go ahead and install the OIV installer, select the mods folder, and it will install it with the changes that we've made to the assembly XML. Speaking of the assembly XML, we no longer need it, so we can go ahead and delete it just to clear it out. Let that install, and then we can move on to the next modification. Perfect. The next modification we need to install, well, it's completely optional, is manual transmission. Manual transmission has quite a few features. Some of them will be first person camera. When you get inside of a vehicle, instead of the camera placement being on the dashboard, it's attached to the player's head, so that when you're moving your head left and right, which you can do via joystick on a controller, Xbox controller, PS4, etc., or mouse, you can move the camera's head that way, so you feel more immersed that you're in control of the player. And the automatic gears are, the shift ratio is so much better, so at higher RPM, just before red line, it shifts up automatically. And overall, it's just a really good modifications to have in your game, especially the manual side. You can have it so if you set it to manual mode, you can shift up, shift down the gears with a controller, mouse, keyboard, etc. And it also supports a steering wheel and pedal support. So if you own a steering wheel and pedal, it's really nice to have this modification for your immersion. So to get this installed, just click on Gears 5.4.1 release. And highlight this Dependency ASI, Gears.asi and manual transmission, and drag and drop it and replace it. I won't be doing it as I've already got it. It just goes into your GTAV root folder. I would also recommend Dashhook. Dashhook is a dependency. I wouldn't say it's dependency, it's just a nice to have with manual transmission. Essentially, if you picture the, actually I could show you. So there's the speedometer. You've got the headlights, you've got ABS, battery low level, handbrake on, oil pressure. It supports with the all-wheel drive option and manual transmission. So it's nice to have because it keeps the speedometer in sync with manual transmission modification. Dashhook.dll just goes into your GTAV root folder, and you can ignore these two modifications. I'm not sure what they're in there for. The next step is to add all of the DLC pack lines to the DLC list that we've manually installed. As they are not being installed by an OIV installer, the dlclist.xml is still in vanilla. The only lines that you should see in there at the moment is Natural Vision Evolved in terms of modification ones. So go into Mods, Update RPF, Common, Data, and your dlclist.xml is here. Right click, edit, and these are all the vanilla ones. Just skip past those. And the only ones you should see is from the OIV installer at the start of the video that has created these lines here. We now need to duplicate these lines and change them ourselves. So the easiest way I've found for modifying lines is click at the end of item here and press Ctrl D. And we have quite a few mods to have, so just press it a few times. Doesn't matter how many times, we can clean up afterwards. The first modification we'll add is word of variety, so WOV. Just double click. The next one, WOV expansion. This is all to do with word of variety. And we also added the SkyNet Parallax Pier, so SkyNet. We added the LA Revo roads, and that's LA_Revo_2 P1. We also added Real California Architecture, RCA. And we also added the Bearcat, so that's BCAT. That will allow it to also spawn in the dispatch wanted mechanism. And just clean it up. So you should have Natural Vision Evolve, Word of Variety, WOV Expansion, SkyNet, LA Revo, RCA, and the Bearcat. Go ahead and save it, and we can move on to installing the dependencies. Now we need to install the dependencies. So there's post-processing, ScriptHookV, ScriptHookVDotNet, game config, heap adjuster, and pack file limit. You need to install all of these in order to make your game stable. Post-processing can be installed on EMB's website, so there's a link in the description. This option is only if people haven't installed Natural Vision Evolved or do not plan on buying it. So follow this process if you haven't bought NVE or QuantV. and just select version 04.56 and download. And once that's installed, go into wrapper version. There'll be a folder called wrapper version here, and highlight everything other than the license and the readme. There's no need to put that in your Grand Theft Auto folder, and drag and drop and replace. I won't be doing it as I've got Natural Vision Evolve installed, and I'll be using my own ENB, which I will show you soon. Skip these files. To install Reshade, Reshade can be installed from this website. Just click on download. Click here to select the game, and then just browse for GTA 5, and then select GTA 5.exe, and then click on update, and then I won't be doing it because mine's already installed. And then select all shaders. There'll be a prompt that allows you to select which shader you want to install. Select them all and then install, and it's Direct 11 engine. I will be using my own Reshade. I will illustrate the difference with the on and off as well as my ENB. So if you've got a custom Reshade, you'll have a .ini file. You just drag the INI in, and then in the Reshade menu you can change the preset you're currently using. So I will be skipping this because I've already got it all installed. I'll leave a Patreon link to my Patreon in the description if you want to give me support. Okay, to install ScriptHookV, it can be obtained from ScriptHookVDotNet. I'll leave a link in the description. It is required in order for trainers to work. So you need the ScriptHookV and the dinput 8.dll. So go ahead and replace. I won't be doing it as I've already got it installed. I wouldn't recommend you install the trainer, native trainer. It's outdated. I would recommend you install simple trainer instead. I'll leave a link in the description. As you can see, there's far more many options. There's also menu. There's another one here. People like to use this one as well. I'll leave the links in the description. Just read the README. The installation is pretty straightforward. ScriptHookVDotNet. I'll leave a link in the description. Highlight everything other than the README and the license, and drag it into your GTA V root folder. I'll skip it because I've got it installed. You need this in order for the raindrops to work. Game config, I would recommend Limitless. Limitless game config can be obtained off GTA 5 mods, link in the description. It's important that you select your correct product version, which is your game version, otherwise you'll get crash on boot. If you're not sure what your game version is, go to your GTA V root folder, so your drive, product, program files, Rockstar, GTA V. Locate GTA 5.exe here, right click, properties, details, and the product versions here. This is mine, 1.02245. Because of all of the changes that we made, I would recommend anything from stock traffic and below. Anything above may cause texture loss or crashes. So game config. The game config.xml is located in mods, update RPF, common data. Drag and drop and replace. So that's mods, update RPF, common data. Close off that. You've now installed game config. The heap adjuster allocates more RAM to the game as it's limited. So the more RAM that's used, the less texture loss. So it makes sense to have it. I'll leave a link in the description. So you'll have heap adjuster ASI and INI. Just drag and drop it. It goes into your root folder. I'll just cancel that because I have it installed. Now you need to change heap adjuster.ini, so go into it and set the heap value to 2000. By default it's 750. If you have 16 gigabytes of RAM, I would recommend 2000. If you have 8 gigabytes of RAM, 1250. Anything less, tweak accordingly. In my case I have 16 gigs, so I'm going to be using 2000. Okay, and then the pack file limit adjuster, also on GTA 5. This is if you get the error system gen error. I can't recall exactly what it's called. 1 second. Pack file. If you get this error, then you need to install pack file limit adjuster. You should have it in your game anyway. You should be installing it anyway. So I'll skip them because I've installed. It goes in your root folder. Open up the pack file limit adjuster.ini. Sorry. So edit. So you can fit this according to your needs. Under normal circumstances, or typically, you just double the value that's in your archive count as it states here. So your game config, mods, update RPF common data. This is the one that we just extracted. Game config here under the XML text. Right click, edit. Right click, edit. Control F, type in archive count. As you can see, mine's 13664. Yours may be different depending on what game version you're running with the game config from Limitless. Just times it by 2. Just use a calculator or something. So the value is 27,328. You can increase it. Previously I thought you couldn't, but you can. So I've just set mine to 40,000. I find that's quite nice for me, but if you experience crashes, just play with that value. 27,328, double this is great. So just double the value normally. And close off the game config, you don't need that. So that is pretty much everything installed. So we've installed NVE, QuantV, visual settings for myself, VisualV, we've installed the TimeCycleMods and dynamic shadows, we've installed the SkyNet Parallax Pier, LA REVO roads, Real California architecture, enhanced street lights with white lights, volumetric lighting with white lights on the street lamps. We've installed volumetric lighting for the exhaust backfire, as well as moths. Raindrops on the car that form when it's raining in 4K textures. We've installed the Bearcats that also spawns in Dispatch. We've installed Project Enhancement V, links of the Discord link in the description for tactics and ambience. We've installed the updated Swat, realistic gun sounds, which we made changes to prevent conflict. We've installed manual transmission for better first-person view in the vehicle, as well as gear switching, and word of variety for a more lively game. So I'll just show you what it looks like now in game. If you've got any questions, etc., don't hesitate to leave a comment in the description, and if you have made it this far, well done. So let's get in game. Okay, I'm now going to start recording the footage of the game loading, just to show you that I haven't done anything since booting, and there will be no crashes. So story mode. So if you've made it this far and your game does crash, then unfortunately you have installed something incorrectly, or you've overlooked something. Don't worry, Grand Theft Auto 5 is quite temperamental. You're not going to be the only one that does it. What I found is the easiest method is to delete your mods folder and start again entirely, but if you do want to take the time in trying to isolate the issue, then you can refer to my video and skip through timelines and see if you found something, see if you missed something. But it's honestly easier just to delete the mods folder and start again sometimes. So just to confirm, I'm using the Natural Vision Evolved E and B. I'm using my Reshade, my own Reshade. I'll turn Reshade off actually. So this is what Reshade looks like off, and this is on. However, this is not good. Bear with me a second. I'll just show you now what the realistic gun sounds sound like. So bear with me a second, let me just get a non-suppressed weapon. It sounds really nice. And I'll just show you the RPG. So it sounds much better now. So I'll show you my Reshade and the ENB because they're designed to work with each other. I'll show you that shortly, but for now let's keep Reshade off and just Natural Vision Evolved. So just to confirm, this is VisualV TimeCycleMods 1 to 4, weather_clear and weather_extra sunny from darker nights, so we get a really nice looking nighttime. I'll just show you how that looks. And as you can see, we've got the white volumetric lighting. I'll just go over here. For some users, this may look really dark to you. Now, I can appreciate that, but for me personally, the nighttime is not well lit in real life unless you're in a well lit area. So you can see, if we set the weather to clear ring, you can see that the lights, they're volumetric, especially if you set it to foggy. That looks great. We'll just set it to daytime again. So you have your white lights. And this is what the parallax textures from SkyNet looks like down on Santa Monica Pier. This is why I recommended it. I think it looks amazing. That looks fantastic. And this is manual transmission with the first person camera modification I was telling you about, which is already installed when you install manual transmission. So you got much more control over the player's head for realism. And you can also tweak that. So just go to miscellaneous options, camera options. So you can decide to have it on the player's head, which is the standard, which I would recommend. Vehicle. You can also adjust where the camera's positioned, so you can have the pitch, so how high it is, you know, the way it's tilted, the height. So if you've got a vehicle with a higher windshield, then you can adjust it accordingly. How forward you want it, how far back. So yeah, a lot of control, and you also have the option for shifting up and down gears, so up a gear, down a gear. If you have a steering wheel and pedals, it's definitely worth it. And as you can see, we have the Natural Vision Evolved palm trees installed. They look great. LA roads. We also have the Natural Vision Evolved gas stations working. That looks great. So if you want that dark, grungy look to the game, then you've got Quant for that. And I'll just show you what rain looks like. This is Quant 2.1.4. And as you can see, we've got the 4K rain texture droplets from the 8K 4K rain texture, and rain is automatically being applied to the car through rain effects. And if you want to know how to turn off the rain on screen, I'll show you shortly. And this is the PTFX from the Volumetric Particles FX, so the exhaust backfire. Much brighter than the standard. Looks great. And we've also got Real California architecture installed. And I'll just show you what the project enhancement dispatch tactics mechanism looks like. So if we give ourselves some wanted level in it, I'm on a 1 star. As you can see that the radius circle is enabled, just like GTA 4. And as you can see, it's not flashing red, so the police have yet to see me. So as you can see, I'm moving away from that circle in the center. But as soon as that cone sees me, and it'll reset, watch. There you go. And furthermore, the police will not shoot unless you shoot them. So they will not shoot me until I shoot them. They'll try and arrest. And if I resist arrest, then they'll shoot. So if I aim my gun at them. I'll just increase the wanted level. So as you can see, we've got loads of police cars around us. You'll also see the SWAT team pull up in the Bearcat. There's the Bearcat. And you'll also see their new uniforms. So this is the uniform that we installed. Oh, it's amazing. Well everyone, if you made it this far, congratulations, you should have yourself a nice looking game. Again, thanks for watching. I know it's a long video, and I know it was a complicated one, but the results are worth it. This is the only way you can achieve graphics like this really, along with having all of the features like weather variety and nice clock dispatch all merged into one. So if you made it this far, well done. You should have NVE, QuantV, my Visualsetting.dat, VisualV time cycles and dynamic shadows, SkyNet, Parallax, Pier textures, LA River roads, real California architecture, enhanced street lights should be installed, volumetric lighting, raindrops on the car, police mods, realistic gun sounds, manual transmission, and weather variety. If you are interested in supporting me, I do have a Patreon. There's two tiers. One tier is £2, just like, you know, to provide me with a cup of coffee or whatever, just to support me. And there's also the £5 tier. The £5 tier I've been updating every month. I have quite a few subscribers. I do appreciate those who have subscribed to me. You will get a Reshade and EMB. I have made a comparison prior to this, so just go back and compare the two. And yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest with you. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment in the description. I'll answer them as quick as I can. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you want future GTA 5 modding tutorials. If you do have any ideas or anything that you want to merge or install, just drop me a message or leave a comment and I'll see if I can make it happen. Peace.